My high school friends are like, I can't believe that you achieved anything. Not because I wasn't dumb. I wasn't like a troubled kid. I was just the laziest motherfucker out there. I did not care.
Welcome to the Creative Slash Podcast, where we explore what happens when creativity collides with everything else. I'm Brad Woodard, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Dustin Lee. Whether you're an artist looking to grow your following or you're just curious about where creativity can take you, this is your weekly dose of real talk about making it as a creative human. In today's episode, we share an interview with designer, writer, and co-founder of UnderConsideration, Armin Vit. He's best known for his long-time running blog, Brand New, which has become a go-to source for logo and identity redesigns that has over 1 million views a month. Alongside his wife and partner, Bryony Gomez Palacio, he's written books and created conferences like the Brand New Conference and In-House and In Focus, and is constantly looking for ways to educate and cultivate the design community. We talk about everything like how playing it safe can make you invisible, moving from big cities to a small town, and the most efficient way of grocery shopping. This one was a blast, so let's get into it and enjoy. Welcome, Armin Vit. Thanks for being on here with us.
Man, it's my pleasure.
We're really excited to have you. So I have a little bit more history with you, obviously, than Dustin. We met in Austin, Texas, and it was funny. It might have been Ty Wilkins, who was like our mutual friend. Mm-hmm. He seems to know everybody. And yeah. So for being like kind of, he seems like he's somewhat introverted, but when you talk to Ty, he's like knows every single person. Like he's kind of an enigma that way.
And also, he has a great voice. It's just like insane. What a not that matters to anyone in watching this or listening to this, but he does have a great voice.
That's true. He's got like a good broadcast voice. Like he would be a good podcast host.
Yep.
For that reason, I've tried though. He's not into it. He's like, no, I don't want to do it. I was like, but you do have the voice and the connections. But yeah, I just wanted to say like, I'm really grateful to you because I was Austin, Texas when I started my business. I kind of went off. I left the ad world, and my wife and I moved to Austin to kind of start it and get a part of that creative community. And AIGA, the chapter was great there. But I know, like a couple years into living there, you had started your own AIGA, you and Brian. Yeah. And can you tell me this? Can you share the story about that a little bit? Because I always thought it was kind of interesting. It was the Artist Initiative for Graphic Awesomeness. Is that right?
Close. It was the Austin Initiative for Graphic Awesomeness, which is when you shorten it, it's AI for GA.
That's what it was, yeah.
It all started because, back in the day, 2002, 2003, when we had our blog, Speak Up, which was the first kind of like major design blog, and not because we're the best, we're just there first before anyone else. So there was some friction with the AIGA organization in general, just because at the time it was a welcome thing to have online discussions and criticism and like really get into things that nowadays people just don't get into those kinds of discussions because no one wants to hurt other people's feelings, whatever. But at the time we were like, the Speak Up writers were out to hurt AIGA's feelings no matter what. Like that was our thing. So, and it was like a love-hate relationship. Eventually I was a board member of the AIGA New York chapter. I helped curate one of the national conferences. So I was involved, but to a certain degree, I never quite enjoyed it. So, yeah. When we eventually moved from New York to Austin, one of the things that we realized right away was that the Austin chapter wasn't that active at that point when we moved to Austin. So we're like, hey, we should continue this beef we have with AIGA and start our own chapter for the Austin community. So we called it, it was very much on purpose that we called it Austin Initiative for Graphic Awesomeness so that it would sound like AI for GA. And at the time, the executive director of AIGA, Rick Raffay, like we had email conversations and phone conversations, and he was not the biggest fan of Speak Up because we were such jerks to his organization. So he called me like on the phone. He was like, Armin, like I understand what you're doing and I get it, but he's like, this is too clever even for you. So I get it. I appreciate it, but please stop using the AI4GA, name, because otherwise I will have to sue you. I'm like, okay, fine. Thank you for the warning. So for the most part, we called it by his full name.
That's funny. I did not know that full backstory. I was telling Dustin, I was like, all I know is that there was some beef and you created something really amazing from it.
Yeah.
I think there's two things that were amazing about it, other than the logo, because the logo's a bat with a with a unicorn horn. It's awesome. And ridiculous and perfect for what it was. But you made it super accessible. Like I said, I was new. And so financially, it was really, really affordable. And all of a sudden I had access to watching. Instead, I didn't have to go to conferences all over the US. I could see, Aaron Draplin, and I could see David Carson. I could see Jessica Hish. We had Stephan Butcher. We had all sorts of people that were just coming in frequently. And I felt like I don't remember what the price was, but I feel like it was super reasonable for the amount of work you put in, for the level of talent. And I mean, they were parties. They weren't just a lecture. Like you just come in and eat. Like I remember Jessica Hish's had like what did she have to say? Was there a clown?
Was there a balloon animal? Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a popcorn stand and it's kind of carnival-y themed. I just was like, it was a really cool experience that you and Bryony put on. And I greatly appreciate it. So I don't know if I've ever told you how much that meant to me, but that really did. It gave me a lot of access to seeing a lot of talented people.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was fun to do. And at the same time, it was also an excuse for us to invite the people that we wanted to hang out with for an evening.
Sure.
That we had come to know through the blog, through other events, things like that. So like, hey, this works out for everyone. It works out for us. It works out for the community, and it works out to piss off the AIGA.
It just works all around. It's perfect. Well, I benefited from it, so thanks. Dustin, do you wanna initiate this with our main question, our first question, as we do for every podcast guest?
Yes. Okay. So I feel like this is just a great question, just to kind of like catch a gauge of who someone is really easily, and that is, do you believe in aliens? And if so, or if not, why?
I do believe that there is something else out there. I don't know what form, shape, or to what level of degree they want to probe us in different ways. Or if that's their ultimate ambition to just like come down to earth and abduct us and do whatever they
poke us a little.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think the universe is too big for it to just be us, the ones that get to be smart and clever as well as dumb and do horrible things to our planet, as well as nice things every now and then. So I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen an alien. Whenever I see videos of people posting UFOs, like, yeah, sure, I believe that. Or like alien encounters, yeah, I'm all for it, because there's no way we're alone.
Would it be fair to say you want to believe?
Yes. I'll have to say that I'm not the biggest X-Files fan, but it's I enjoy the supernatural. Well, this wouldn't be supernatural. This would be natural, but not from this Earth.
Right. That's totally
natural. It would be super. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I want to. I grew up right in that. I don't know how close we are in age, but I grew up right when that show was out, so it reminds me of high school and things like that. But I definitely, I had with another guest explain to them what I thought I had seen an alien craft over my house out in the country in Washington State when I was young, and when he repeated it back to me, I felt like I was absolutely insane. Like, so a triangle floated over your house in the dark. And now you believe in aliens.
Yeah, I believe you. And even just from that short snippet, yes.
Sold. Armin is sold.
Yeah.
That's funny.
This actually kind of like dovetails into like a more, I guess a more applicable question to your career kind of which is, we wrote down this great question we heard the other day, which is there anything, you've done a lot of work where you're, doing a critique of other people's branding and design and things like that. Has there ever been a project, whether it's that or something else, where later after the fact of having a strong opinion on it, you changed your mind? And what happened?
Yeah, no, there's plenty where, especially now, so I'm brand new. We've been doing it for, 19 years now. So what often happens is that a company, product, service will rebrand, and we had already covered the previous rebranding on brand new, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 12, however many. So whenever I know that we covered it, I go back and I read what I wrote. And like before I read anything, I'm like, please don't let me have been an asshole. Cause, 9 times out of 10 between the year 2006 and 2015, I was an asshole to most projects, because that's what attracted the visitors. Eventually I matured and that sort of stopped. But yeah, every now and then I go back and it's just like, man, I was such a jerk. And, also I was just not as well informed as I could have been. Sometimes my gut reaction is still there that I don't like it, or that for whatever reason, I don't think it works. But then I rethink about it like, okay, maybe there were some things that I could have said better, or if I had taken other things into consideration, I would have said something else. I used to have an example of one project where I just changed my mind like a year or two later, but I am blanking on it now. If I remember sometime in the interview here, I'll bring it up. But yeah, no, there's definitely been cases which are like, 1 or 2 years. Oh, you know which one it is? Verizon. So Verizon by Michael Berut, when they switched from like the big check mark to the tiny check mark next to the name typeset in, I'm guessing Neue Hasgrotesque or one of those, where just like, like, it's like it was like shoving the thing that all designers hated under the rug, but you could still see it. Like it was still, the check mark was still there. It's just like they just made it as small as possible. And then like 2 or 3 years later, I switched from AT&T to Verizon as a customer. And I walked into the store and it was just like, wow, this is like a really fantastic, like all-encompassing experience, which was that check mark, the Helvetica everywhere. And I was just like, hey, this actually works once you put it into action and in the right context, not just on a blog and you're judging everything at once. So that's one that I really appreciated after the fact, that I was sort of not very keen on when it first launched.
You mentioned in the beginning of that, you said early on when you were writing about different brands and things, that you would sort of intentionally be a little bit controversial or have a critical opinion, if I'm hearing you right. That made me think of like, for instance, the American Eagle ad that was recently came out has been really controversial with people. Do you still believe like, is that effective? Is that like, do you think that's a good strategy when starting something, is to take a strong stance like that? I love the market angle of these kind of things. So it's fascinating to me to hear how you would think about this.
In terms of a publication that's trying to establish its voice, or a brand sort of trying to create discourse.
Yeah, no, good distinction. I suppose the first one.
Okay. Yeah. So, yes, I think there is, if you just come out and you're polite and you say the same thing that everyone is saying, perhaps more informed, perhaps in a more eloquent way, there's nothing that makes me want to read that. I think with brand new and even with Speak Up, my strategy was shock and awe, in part because I had nothing to lose. Like I was a young designer that no one knew about, no one cared for. So my strategy was just like, hey, let's just say whatever the heck comes to my mind first, filter as little as possible, and not worry about how it makes other people feel. Which is like, now that I'm saying it, it's just like, what an asshole. You were such a jerk. You had no right to be this way. But again,
you can't fight the results.
Exactly. But I think at the time, it was also a reflection of of the times where, this was the early 2000s. Gawker was kind of like the biggest online publication, and it was all about the snark and being catty and just like, how can you be mean to other people? So people enjoyed reading that. So I think that's where that came from. And I think nowadays there's better ways to do it, but I do think they had to find a voice that is distinct from not just from everyone, but now from everyone and AI, because now anyone can write an opinion that sounds well formed. So if you can infuse it with any kind of humanity and your own personality, and hopefully it's a winning personality that gathers an audience, that's the way to do it. But because otherwise, there's like 100 podcasts born every week. No offense to yours, but So it's what makes it different. In this case, you found an angle, which is how do we go beyond someone's profession and career to get to know someone and identify with them in a different way than what we're used to. So there's a hook.
Yeah.
So it's always about finding that little element that makes you different. As small as it is, it can make a big difference.
I find that, it's always interesting that when you ask that question, you can get asked that question a lot of different ways, but it's like, would you recommend other people who are trying to, like other creatives that are trying to have a voice and trying to get noticed, would you recommend they kind of follow your footsteps? And you're like, hey, maybe that's just at the beginning. You kind of have to there's nothing to lose. You just have to kind of go out there and do it. But I feel like that's a question I think we get a lot. And sometimes it's a hard one because it's like, yeah, maybe it was a more product of the times, like you said. And other times it's like, I don't know, maybe there's just a time and season for everything where at the beginning you are a little bit more arrogant. You are a little bit, you know less and you can kind of like, what do you have to lose? But it's just to try to get your foot in the door. So I could see that.
Yeah. I think it's just, if you're somewhat true to yourself, and not to sound like an inspirational poster, but if you do what you believe, if you do and say what you believe strongly about, hopefully that translates into something else that other people connect with in some other way.
Yeah. I'm curious when you do things like that. So I remember when I started my business Retro Supply, I remember putting these products up and feeling very inadequate to put them up. And I kept waiting for someone to write me and say, you're a poser. You don't know what you're doing. You set the file wrong. You didn't create the right DPI for it. And I was scared to death, but I had a child on the way. And at that point, I didn't care. I thought I would rather be humiliated in front of the design community than have to tell my daughter I didn't try, to give her the best life I could. What was like the internal dialogue you have with yourself? Cause I feel like it's scary to do that. I feel like it's scary to criticize people, like people have thin skin sometimes. Sometimes they take it really personally. You can make enemies for life. Who knows? What was like the internal dialogue you tell yourself that would kind of let you keep going without letting this anxiety build up from it?
Whatever I tell myself, the anxiety builds up. It's just nonstop. Even nowadays, as recently as this week or, this month when we're raising the price for the subscription to Brand New, that is just like, I'm a nervous wreck. It's just like, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to be hated by people? Are people not going to care? So yeah, I think it's, to me, it's a good thing to never get over that feeling. Is what I'm doing dangerous? Is what I'm doing right? Is what I'm doing executed well? Is what I'm doing beneficial to others? So I think going into that sort of anxious loop in your brain, I think it's healthy to a certain degree because it forces you to really analyze what you're going to put out and try to, like, my goal is to mess it up as little as possible when it launches. And I think, again, like it's not something that has gone away with experience, like even our new conference that we started for in-house designers that we did the first one in March. I had the same feeling of nervousness and like, is this going to work as I did with the first Brand New conference in 2010, and that was 15 years ago. So I think it's just I think it's healthy, and I think as long as you can answer those questions to yourself and then listen to feedback really quickly and be ready to implement the feedback that most resonates with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I was thinking, you mentioned your conferences, which you guys do a lot of. You organize a ton. So I'm kind of shifting gears a little bit, but that was kind of a segue. I feel like you put on so many things. I feel like it's kind of hard to keep track. And also, I feel like that's just seems like an overwhelming amount of like, you would need a ton of organizational skills to do that. So I guess this is a two-parter. So this question. So the first one is, which one of you is the one who, you or Brad, who's like the organizer here, who's, and also you had mentioned something about your own organizational techniques in things outside of work, as like your grocery lists, your traveling so I'm assuming it might be you, but who's the organizer?
Bryony she's more of the organizer officially. She has developed some amazing spreadsheet skills that, it keeps everything on track and what needs to be done and who needs to do what and at what time and where things are coming from and where things are going. So she's very tidy. She has lists. She has stuff. Everything is in my head. Like I know what needs to happen when. Sometimes I'll forget, but I know that will need to happen. And for me, the organization comes in, again, is that feeling of anxiousness is not one, it's fear of messing up. Like my fear of messing up forces me to be organized, even though my instinct is to not. My instinct is to just like, hey, I'll just show up. Everything will be fine. But when you do that and everything is not fine, then you learn that whatever you do, you need to figure out a way to make things happen. So, but like, for example, like I do most of the design work for the conference and Brian does most of the logistics and working with speakers, venues, things like that. So my file system is like top notch. Like it's unfuckable with. Bryony might have a hard time finding things when she tries to go into my computer. But she's like, I know exactly where things are. I have, I've been backing up stuff and I have 5 hard drives on my computer and they have no labels. They have nothing. I know exactly which one it is by the hum it makes at night. But they have, they're like labeled like 2022, 2020, 25. Even though there are things from other years, I know exactly what's where.
That's wild.
And I know how to find it. So yeah, it's just a matter of, you fuck up 1 or 2 times and then you're like, how can I avoid this happening again? So you develop, in my case, it's just kind of like coping skills with the fact that there's so much to do that I need to figure out how to keep things under control.
Oh my
but yeah, we're both very organized and we become very obsessed about clear communication, knowing what's happening when and how.
Wow. Yeah. I totally get the feeling though. I understand having just your own filing system, either in your head or on your computer, and you can just kind of find everything. So how did that translate? You piqued my interest when you wrote in the email, you said, I'm obsessed with organizing and planning for grocery shopping. And Dustin and I both looked at each other like, we need to ask more because that's something I try to avoid in general is going grocery shopping. So
I just go in there and just pick things up as I go down the aisles. And
you can't be hungry or else you just get everything.
Yeah. No, so I am the designated grocery shopper of the household. So that's been like that for a good 10 years, which is fine. I accept my responsibility. I in some way I enjoy going to the grocery store. But now with, so we're, it's me, my wife, and 2 kids. Brian and I work from home, so we eat all of our meals here. Late, in the past 5 years, we go out less to eat, as a family, in Austin when it was all fun and games, we'd go out for lunch on the weekends all the time. But now, the experience of going to lunch is just not the same as it used to be. But anyway, I digress. So, the grocery, haul is intense. So, what I started doing was, on Saturday morning, I would get out a piece of paper and I would start writing down what we need. And then I found that every week I was writing 75% of the things that I was writing down were the same. Like it was always milk, it was always yogurt, whatever it was. And I would write them in the order of the aisles. So that I would know I go in through this door and I work myself from left to right. Then I go, zigzagging. So I know exactly even at what distance within the aisle things are. So, Cheerios.
Wow.
Cheerios are first on the list before granola because that's further down the aisle. If I'm coming in from that
Which store?
This is a Kroger.
Is it one store? Oh, okay. So it has to be the same store. Otherwise, this throws everything off.
Well,
Okay,
I think most people do their grocery shopping in one or two stores. So we have Kroger. And one of the reasons why I had to come up with a system is because someone told me when we first moved here, and I don't know how true this is, but they told me this is the biggest Kroger in all of the US. And I don't question it because it is humongous. Like I wouldn't say it's as big as Walmart, but it's definitely bigger than any other grocery store I've been to. So, it's I think it's a good half mile from one end to the other. So like you're getting a workout.
Jeez. Yeah.
So then about a year or two ago, and I have my, I'm going to show it to you. This is my spreadsheet. So, this is for Kroger. And this starts like I go into the door and I start going down the list. And here I just highlight. These are like the most purchased items from each week. So I just highlight what I need. I have a row for quantity. If I need to get 1 or 2 or 4 apples, whatever. And then, so that's what I'm going to buy. Then once I get into the store, my shopping cart is also, I fill it in with the way I want to put it on the conveyor belt, with the way I then want to put it in my shopping bags. So, what I do is, up front in the cart goes like all the heavy stuff, like milk, yogurt, anything in a glass jar that goes up in the front. Then that's followed by vegetables, fruits, anything that needs to be weighed. Because then what happens is that I'll put all of the heavy stuff and the cashier is just like beep, 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 super fast, super confident. And then, because if they keep going and you put the grapes first or the bread first, it's going to get squished because everything is piling up.
Interesting.
I know it sounds like next level, but it's so relatable because I definitely run into all these issues. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So then what I do is that I load up the heavy stuff, then I slow them down with the fruits and veggies because they had to weigh them. None of them ever know the numbers for anything. So they're like, what is this? Sure. So by the time they're done with that, I have packed away all the heavy stuff and then I'm ready to start putting in the veggies and stuff like that. And then I have another layer of other random stuff that can just get more piled on. And then at the very end, it's the bread and the eggs. So that and the bananas, because those cannot get squished. And I have specific bags for different items. This makes me sound like I have terrible OCD, but I really don't. Like, this is the only thing in my life that requires, because I do it every week. It costs money. I mean, just like the insane amount of money that we spend on groceries, not because we buy fancy shit. It's just like I've been buying the same amount of stuff over the past 5 years and it's gone from $150 to $300. So I want to make sure that I'm getting the most out of it in any way possible. So that's my grocery store, routine. And I enjoy it. I actually enjoy it.
So being a designer, and when you mentioned the part about the checkout clerk and noticing their speed, I was like, that's such a designer thing to notice, to be like, well, this will help them go fast here, and then they can essentially in batches go slow and then batch a faster section. Is there anything that you look at a grocery store now that you've put this much consideration into it and you think, this is a fundamentally flawed thing of a grocery store, they really should fix it? Why has, I don't know what kind of designer or engineer does that, why have they not done this?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, to me, I think the deli is still like the Achilles heel of most grocery stores. Because it's so slow. There's always a like you still have to get like that little paper number that, like in the 1950s from a butcher in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
So like that's still such a flawed system, but there's also something very, so I avoid the deli at all costs just because it slows me down. But there is something very pleasing about that, that whole experience. The one thing in my Kroger specifically is like, no matter how empty or how full it is, something happens around the yogurt fridges that it's always traffic. And now there's like an island there of something that like they put cookies and crackers over there. Like, no, like this is dairy cold stuff. This has nothing to do here. It's just blocking the flow. And it's always like I'm trying to get, my yogurt, and there's always a conglomeration there, no matter how many people are in Kroger. So, I don't want that to get out because 3 years ago, they reconfigured all of the aisles after I had memorized them already.
Oh,
and that just threw me that just threw me off my game for like a whole 3 months. It's just like, oh man, I have to relearn everything, redo my list, just like reconsider everything I knew to be, true. So
the whole deconstruction of his grocery shopping belief system. That's funny. Oh my gosh. It feels like an episode on, it feels like some IDEO would tackle, but I think it was IDEO that tackled was it the shopping cart and like just a simple everyday use thing. Like how can we enhance it and make it better and more practical? I remember hearing that. Maybe it's just we're gonna see on like a podcast like 99% Invisible or something, and you're gonna be like, I figured out the way to like fix grocery stores and the flow, and getting the most amount of like the maximum amount of people in there and out of there as quick as possible.
Yeah, but to their credit, Kroger has done a good job, and it's big and it's sizable, and it's somewhat makes sense in how they arranged it.
Yes.
That's funny.
I agree. Okay, so speaking of consumer things, this is a question that we stole from Tim Ferriss. You're familiar?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's such a great question, though. So what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
That is a good question. And shit. I remember thinking about something recently, like I'm so glad I bought this. What was it? Damn it.
And if you have to come back to it.
I know it's one of those things where like you can feel the things. It's like, what are they though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have one which is not the one that I have in my gut to tell, but because I work out from home, and luckily I'm getting stronger. But every now and then, like there's a barbell exercises that just like my grip is not strong enough. And for $12, I got one of those wristbands, and like it's a game changer. So like, well, why didn't I do this earlier? And this is almost triggering what I wanted to talk about. Hold on. Why didn't I do this earlier? Crap.
We need to prep you with the questions before.
Yeah, no, this one I would have come prepped because there was something that I remember recently. Which is like, this is such a game changer.
I'll tell you one I got yesterday, or did it hit you?
No, go. It might hit me. It might come to me.
Got it.
Okay, I'll tell you real quick, and maybe it will like trigger you.
Yeah.
I just saw and bought, we're obviously always looking for chargers in our house. We have 3 kids. Everybody is using devices at different times. And I found and purchased this. It's like a puck, and you unfold the back and it plugs into the wall, into the socket, no cord. And you just put your phone onto it, and your phone sits almost like it's like a flat screen television mounted, and it's charging. But you can also see it, but there's no cord to disconnect to lose. And there's another cord plug in the bottom, so you can put a second one on it. It just makes it so you're never losing the thing. You're putting it right on there. You can also watch it, because we've all have the experience of we're trying to continue watching something. We're about to run out of
while it's charging
of juice. And I was just like, I can't believe this has not been invented before. This is amazing. And it's like $50. It's a little overpriced, but it's valuable.
Yeah, no, every now and then there's like little things that you're just like, why did they wait this long to do this, which is so simple.
Yes.
Totally.
Okay, so here, I mean, it's not a question of something that I bought, but here's another one of those little things where you're just like, why did it take me this long to do this before? So I think the more that I say about myself, the more it comes across that I do have OCD. So I shave. I used to shave only on Wednesdays and Sundays. And that's it. So like every Wednesday, every Sunday, I shave. Whatever happens in between happens. But then also as part of my workout routine, at some point we bought kind of like a phone booth size sauna. So one person can get in there, get a sweat, move on. And in my workout routine, it turned out that it was Wednesday and Sunday. But what happens to me and what has happened to my whole life is that it takes me once I start sweating, I sweat the rest of the day. It takes forever for me to stop sweating. Like it's just, I have to sit still in front of a fan. Maybe that will take care of it. But if I do any sudden movements, start sweating again. So
I feel that.
So, go into the sauna and be like, all right, now I need an hour to cool down. Like, okay, I'm cooled down. Now I'll take a shower. I get hot again, but not too bad. And then I start shaving and just like sweat all over again. Like this is not conducive to a good lifestyle. So like 2 months ago, I was like, I should shave Tuesdays and Saturdays when I'm not coming out of the sauna. And it's been fantastic. So
game changer.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. This is like, why didn't I do this like 10 years ago?
It's wild how there's things like that. Like, yeah, I've had things like, I have that same feeling that you have where I can't think of what they are, but there's some things I've done forever and you just stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then you realize just the total inefficiency of it. And I start wondering how many weeks of my life were spent in this, transition phase of doing this thing because I just never had the common sense to realize I should, I don't know, brush my teeth after I eat breakfast or something like that, right? Some sort of thing like that.
Dude, that's like we got a bidet, like the attachment you could put on the toilet, and I don't know how I survived. I can't go to other bathrooms and feel like a human, afterwards without having a bidet. I'm like, how do we even clean ourselves? Like, that's so archaic, using toilet paper in our hands. That's wild. And it was just funny. It was like, we didn't, they're not very expensive. They're like $30-$40 or whatever. Now you can buy them all different types on Amazon. But, it was one of those things that's like, you don't think about, I think it goes back to like your grocery shopping. You recognize it's something that you do all the time. So like, okay, now that I recognize I do it all the time, why don't I put down a little bit of effort and try to organize the experience or make it better for myself? We did that with a mattress when we finally realized how much time, like we sleep on this every single night, and it really matters, like how well we sleep. So why don't we get a good mattress instead of these crappy old mattresses that we get? Because we don't want to pay that much money. And the same thing with like the bidet. I'm like, how often do we sit on the toilet? Every day you have to be there. So it's just funny little things you don't think about because you just do them all the time, like your shower or whatever, or the kitchen. And then it's like you do one little change and you're like, why wasn't I doing that? Why didn't I purchase this so long ago?
I'm going to write bidet at the bottom of my list. And
you need to. You will. Yeah. It'll change your life.
I have one of those and it's game changing. I mean, it ruins trips and things like that because you feel like they are living like cavemen with the toilet paper, but they're incredible. Yeah.
No offense to everybody who doesn't use them. I don't think less of you, but I'm telling you, once you get it, you'll feel some sort of like complex that you're not better, but
I'm sure there's some sort of conspiracy like amongst the paper corporations or the toilet paper corporations where there's lobbyists preventing. I mean, think about the economic collapse would happen within these businesses. If
seriously,
especially because if there's another COVID or another, another thing like that, like what are you going to hoard?
Exactly. That's actually when we bought it. We didn't have to use the toilet paper. You use like one square.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. Actually, I have a question for you because this one's super relevant because I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I had called you. I think I called you and asked you why you were moving to Bloomington, Indiana. Mm-hmm. I was super curious, but also I just felt like it was so out of the blue. and I didn't understand. I was like, it's Austin, Texas. This is like the creative hub. You have access to all these people. Everybody wants to come there. When you put on events, everybody wants to come there. It's not like you have to convince them to go out to Bloomington, Indiana. It seems like you do things in Chicago and Pittsburgh. You find interesting places to do things. Not that Bloomington, Indiana isn't, but I do remember on your, okay. I just remember you saying something along the lines of, and correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted to move somewhere it was like a lifestyle change. Like you guys wanted to do more with less or the same amount. Like that money goes so much further if you're in somewhere like Bloomington than if you're paying the ridiculous property tax prices in Austin and the rising home prices. So tell me a little bit about that, because that actually spurred I don't know if you knew this, but that's actually why we moved to Boise.
Yeah, no,
from
I
Austin.
think I do remember having that conversation after, and you mentioning that's why it was one of the reasons why you ended up somewhere outside of Austin too. And I think it's every now and then, I think for most people, or I mean, at least for us, like every now and then you realize that what you're doing, I think goes back to the conversation. You've been doing something for so long that you just get used to whatever that thing is. And in Austin, we moved there in 2009. So it was still 2009. Yeah. So it still wasn't as big as it became. And then slowly but surely, like every little thing started to cost more. Traffic was a little bit more intense. And one of the reasons why we moved to Austin from New York was because of those same reasons. Like in New York, which is like cost of living is insane. Traffic is insane. Just like the amount of people is too much. And having kids, you stop using the city as much as you used to. So, that was why we ended up in Austin. And then all of a sudden, Austin started to become a little bit of that same feeling. Like, okay, we're not taking advantage of the city as much because it's hard to get places. It's expensive to go places. And it sure as hell is getting more expensive to pay for this house. Just like the property taxes, we started paying something like $8,000 a year, which is already high for the US. And then by the time we decided that it was time to move, it was up to like 14,000. Like there was no sign of this stopping, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, you can fight your, how much they raise your property taxes, but it's impossible when houses next to yours are selling for $1 million and yours is just not worth that much. So, at some point we're just like, look, we're not in a position where we can keep affording this comfortably or enjoyably. So what if we take away that financial burden, that edge? Because we were on edge all the time. Like, like we could afford it, and month to month we were fine, but we're just always like, we cannot slip in any way whatsoever. Any little slip up and any event that doesn't work out, we're fucked. So, when we started thinking about other places to move to, we had a friend couple that we had met in New York, and they studied at IU, Indiana University here in Bloomington, and they moved here after New York. And they were like, hey, have you ever thought about, no, we asked them, like, what is this Midwest city that you moved to? And like, hey, Bloomington, Indiana, you should check it out. Like, I had never heard of it. I Googled it, and, the first thing that comes up is IU, because it is it's a college town. And I love basketball, so right away, like, okay, Bobby Knight, throwing chairs, I'm into it. Yeah, Hoosiers, the movie, I'm into it. So I came to scope it out, hooked up with a real estate agent just to see some houses. And houses are beautiful, big, twice the size, half the cost of whatever we could get in Austin. And we're like, there's yes, Austin is fantastic. Food is great. Everybody wants to go there. But at the same time, it's like we're not the most social people. Like we're we are introverted. We're hermits. Like we just don't get along with society as well as we should. So like, might as well go somewhere where we can be left alone and not suffer and not have to pay a price for that.
Sure.
So we ended up, and we've always worked from home. We've been working from home since 2007. First in a cold ass basement in Brooklyn, then in the master bedroom of our house in Austin. So we're like, okay, we need an office, and this place that we ended up buying has a proper office space. It has a workshop that I'm sitting in right now with storage and space. So we're like, hey, we can actually do what we want to do. We're paying half the amount of mortgage. We can use that money to buy equipment. We can use that money to go on vacations. We can use our free time when we're not having to worry about producing more to get more money to actually hang out with our kids. It was realizing that what we were doing was not, it was not sustainable in an enjoyable, financial, emotional way for the long run. And we knew we were sacrificing the coolness of Austin for being in, we're really in the middle of nowhere. Like it's literally, it's a beautiful town. It's you think of Indiana, you think cornfields and plain, like flat, horizon. And yes, there is that, but for some reason here, Bloomington, it's hilly, there's forests, it's beautiful. So it's like, hey, it's a really nice place to be for now. I think like now that our kids are growing up, our oldest one is going to college in 2 weeks. The youngest one has 3 years left, and now we're starting to reconsider like, okay, now luckily we have more money. Because we've matured, we've grown, we've invested, things like that. So now sort of our needs are different. We don't have to worry about the best public school or, being able to afford things for. I mean, eventually we do have to pay for college and help our kids sort of make that first step, but we don't have to worry about their day-to-day, living. I guess to a degree we do, but it's not as pressing as it used to be for a little bit. So yeah, it's just a matter of adapting and seeing what's going to work 3-5 years down the line, as opposed to, right now it's great, but what happens later?
Sure.
So you mentioned, you've said a couple of times, we're introverted. You moved from Austin to Bloomingdale, Indiana, which obviously is not nearly the creative hub that more like Austin is. If you were to give advice to people that were just graduating and going out into the world of design or things like that, or even someone like later who's just kind of struggling right now, you have a tremendous reach. You have a lot of projects going on. You've written books. You have these big events. What is in spite of the fact that I think a lot of people feel like, well, you have to be an extrovert for that, or you need to be in Austin, Texas for that, or you need to be in Brooklyn, New York for that. If you had to choose just one trait, what is the thing that people should focus on doing that you're doing that some people don't do? Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people very similar that are probably not doing all these things and they wish they could. And they're like, what is the difference between me and someone like yourself?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things that have worked in my favor, being one, introverted, and two, not the best designer in the world. I'll be the first to admit, I'm an okay designer. I can choose typefaces, I can lay them out nicely, but I'm not the most creative or whatever. So what I found is that I can work harder than most people, or I will devote more time to get things as right as possible than some other designers are willing to do. So what that does for me is that it allows me to, if something is not the greatest, most creative, most original piece of design, it will at least be really well done because I took care of all the details until I couldn't care more. So that's one thing, just caring about your craft and investing the time needed to get it to a degree that other people go hey, that's really good. And I think, so that's one thing that's sort of personal. The other one is, again, I don't do well, in social interactions. I think a lot of people tell me you do fine. You're okay. But just internally, I'm just I'm in, constant panic mode. How am I going to screw this up? What do I say? What if there's an awkward silence? But you do have to, sort of get over that and make those connections. Like if no one knows you exist, no one is going to hire you. No one is going to think about you. And that applies to, depending on your level of ambition, whether it's just getting one job or, being the most famous designer, in the world, you have to get out there to the degree that you want, to the degree of what you want to achieve. So yeah, like for example, when I started Speak Up, just like again, like there was no reason anyone would know about me. So I just thought I'm going to do something uncomfortable, and I'm going to find the email for Steve Heller. I'm going to find the email for Michael Berut, for Paula Scher, and I'm going to say like, hey, you have no idea who I am. I don't know if you're going to even reply, but this is what I'm doing. Go check it out. So paired with that is the willingness to be rejected and to be ignored, and being okay with that to a certain degree. That, right, these 3 people didn't care for me. All right, I'll move on to the next 3. Someone out there has to care one way or another, even if it's just to say like, fuck off. All right, so now they told me to fuck up. Now I have annoyed them. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of I'm on the radar, for better or worse. So I think it's just getting out of that comfort zone. And I think we all have there's different degrees of what that is for each person. And until you're able to go one level beyond, I think that's what gets you more connections, more whatever it is, whether you want a job, whether you want more clients, whether you want to, have 100,000 followers on Instagram. You just have to go out there and do it, which is really hard. Like a lot of people are just like, I want to do it, but I don't do it because I'm scared or I'm lazy or whatever it is. So, it's just going out there, be willing to fail, and hope for the best.
That's great advice.
Do you, just like a follow-up question, that do you many of the things you do are very beneficial to other creatives. So, for instance, when Brad was, obviously thrilled when he's like, hey, you won't believe who I've got on here, and was talking about how he visits the brand new site very frequently to look at what's going on.
I'm a subscriber. So.
And a subscriber, yeah. And so all of these things are very much thinking what's in it for the other person. That's a thing. Like I went to school for marketing, not for design. And that was something that you'd oftentimes be, they would kind of drill into you, is you have to think what is in it for this person right now to get them to take the next step. Was that like a conscious decision you made in projects you did? Did you say, hey, what is in it for this person that I'm making this? Or were you just kind of like following like your heart or what you loved and it just happened to resonate?
Yeah, for the most part, it was filling voids that I felt I myself had. So, Speak Up was just like, hey, no one is taking advantage of blogs to talk about design. So we did that. There's no conference for branding. So, hey, I would love to go to a conference about branding. No one is doing it. So I'm going to do it. Same thing so with Brand New, which is like, hey, there's no one out there talking just about logos and nerding about this. So I'm just going to do it because I would like for that thing to exist. If it weren't made by me. So it's both selfish and unselfish in that, I'm doing it for something that interests me, but at the same time, how can this be beneficial to others? And at the beginning, when we didn't charge any money for anything, we were like, hey, let's just do it. It's for free. But now, now that we have a subscription service, like, okay, how do we make this valuable for other people? And in a way that is not just a transaction. Like, how can I make this, if not an integral part, an enjoyable part of every designer's day, to just go in and enjoy what I enjoy doing, and that for something that I happen to also get paid by you, the reader. So it's, in a way, it's kind of like a mutually beneficial relationship in a way that we're after. Like, hey, I'm going to do something that I'm going to charge you, but I'm going to make sure that you enjoy it as much as I would if I were paying for it.
That's a great way to look at it.
How can I make your day better? Yeah, I love that.
Now, is there, I guess, looking back, because I'm always curious about that, because we touched on a few different things that I feel like that not everybody does. Like, they don't seek the uncomfortable. I feel like you also kind of give up a little bit of your ego to prioritize and make a platform for other people, instead of just, heralding your own work and talking about yourself. I feel like as creatives, that's like a kind of a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, oh, I kind of want to be seen for the work that I do. But you put so much stake into uplifting like the creative community and pushing the successes of others. Like, what were you like as a kid? Was this something like, where did you develop this? Was this something that like as a kid, this is something that became this, or what? At what point did you realize like, hey, like it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure everybody's having a good time. Because I feel like you kind of do that. It's like, I mean, it's fun, but I want to make sure everybody else is having a good time.
I have zero idea where it came from. It just developed once I got into it. Especially people like my high school friends, the few high school reunions that I've gone to in the past 10 years, my friends are like, I can't believe that you achieved anything. Not because I wasn't dumb. I wasn't like a troubled kid. I was just the laziest motherfucker out there. I did not care. I never did my homework. In Mexico, you're graded on a scale from 0 to 10. You need a 6 to move on to the next grade. All through high school, 6, 6.1, 6.2. So it's just like doing the bare minimum to get by. I think it was just like when I found something that I enjoyed, and then finding someone in Bryony who, she was the opposite of me, always an overachiever, always going. And I was like, life, let's just take it easy. She's like, no, we need to figure stuff out. So I think that was just like, hey, you can actually in a way do both, like be chill, but also driven. And then I think what it comes down to of making sure that everybody enjoys what we're doing is that there is a need somewhere deep within me of wanting to be liked. I think, I want to please people. I want people to think that I'm a nice guy. And that's more now than when I was in my asshole years of brand new. But yeah, I think now it's just like, I really want people to think that I'm a good guy. And I don't know why. I don't know what I get out of it other than going to bed at night knowing that I did well for someone else.
But you still want to look. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, yeah, I was just saying that. Yeah, I have no idea exactly where it came from. There's no real seed of where that came from.
Okay, that's totally fair. It was just funny when you said that because right before we hopped on and started recording, I was admiring your tattoos because those are new since I've seen you. And the reason why I just thought it was hilarious because you're just like, I want to come off as this nice guy, but I was like, so why'd you get the tattoos? You're like, I don't know, I just want to look like a badass so no one will mess with me. Yeah, and I was like, that's so relatable too.
Yeah, deep down, I don't want to antagonize people. I don't want to get into fights. I don't want to if someone wrongs me on the street or in whatever way, she's like, hey, I'll let it pass. I don't want to be confrontational about this, but with the tattoos, they're like, and I guess maybe the working out too is like, hey, I'm not going to mess with this guy. I'm just going to be nice. So that maybe it's a way for me to avoid confrontation just by looks alone, because inside I'm just like, please don't talk to me. Please don't, don't
talk to me.
Hey, do you guys mind if we try something? If we try, we have 10 minutes left with you. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple questions I'm just so curious to hear your answer to. Can we do a little lightning round where just ask you some of these and just see if you can answer it in I don't know, 30 seconds or less, or feel free to elaborate, but
I'll try to keep it short.
See what your thoughts were on them.
I'll allow it.
Okay. Thank you. What is something you believe that other people think is insane?
Oh shit. What do I believe that other people think is insane? I would say working more than you should, being a workaholic. People are like, most people are like, why do you work so much? I don't know. I just really enjoy it. I'm not good at much else. So I like to work. Let me work. Okay.
Let me have it.
Yeah.
What is the book or books you've given most as gifts?
I'm not a reader, so I rarely think about books as gifts.
Ooh, TV show recommendations.
Okay.
I'm going to change it up.
Okay, so a lot, but obviously The Simpsons, Family Guy. I just started watching for the first time King of the Hill, and it's blowing my mind.
I just started it yesterday. That's funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never watched it as a kid.
Yeah, and the description says just like 1996. That is almost 20 years ago. It just blew my mind that it was so long ago, and it's so good. But more adult programming. I mean, all the obvious, like Breaking Bad, Severance. I recently binged Ted Lasso. Because at first I thought, like, what's the big deal with Ted Lasso? It's insane. It is the corniest.
First season is the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the absolute corniest show ever, but they can pull it off. Like, you never question, why are you being so fucking cheesy? It's just like, they just go smooth on whatever you're doing. But yeah, unfortunately, books, and a lot of, like, even my kids are like, why don't you read? Like, I don't know, like, I spend so much time looking at words on my computer, whether it's for writing brand new or for reading stuff for brand new or moving type around, that the last thing I want to do is at the end of the day, look at more tiny letters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I feel that.
When you think of the word successful, who is the first person who comes to mind and why?
I mean, so I would say Michael Jordan, just because he was such a jerk to everyone, but he was so competitive and he was just so good. Like that, to me, that was, maybe it's a bad role model because, his gambling, how shitty he was to some people, but he knew what he had to do. He knew what he wanted, and he was like the absolute best at it. People can argue for LeBron and Kobe, but there's no one like Michael. So I think, and then he was able to branch off into business and other things. So, that's one way of looking at it. The other way I could say, like, my dad, like he studied, he got a PhD in mathematics, really smart guy, got a job offer from IBM. Then my grandfather passed away. He owned a business that was the most boring shit ever, which was buying and selling the ingredients that pharmaceutical companies used to make drugs. So not the drugs themselves, just like the powders. My dad inherited that business, put us through college, gave us a good life. Now he's retired. So, he's not famous. He's not, he's just, he sits now at home on his iPad and plays with AI. That's success. He just did it. He took what life gave him and just ran with it.
Yes.
I love that.
One. Yeah. I think there's a lot of we forget that there's a lot of very successful people out there that because they haven't chosen public fields or to be publicly known, that we don't know. There's literally superstars and things that we're unaware of that are absolutely winning at life.
Yeah, which leads me into a plug for you, Armin, in a second.
Yeah. Go for it.
Oh, I was going to plug your in-house InFocus. It feels like that's kind of on point with that. I feel like a lot of people, the in-house designers, don't get the same, recognition as these design studios. So anyway.
For sure, yeah. And that's the main reason why we started that conference, is because there's so much talent and there's no output for that talent. Like, design agencies have our blog. They have all these other websites that promote cool branding and cool studios. But now you have all these great in-house designers doing really good work for really good organizations. And no one gets to see their work. No one knows how they operate, how they get things done, the kind of like the joys, the trials, the tribulations that they go through. So after doing the first one, like, the number one feedback that we got at the end of the day was like, thank you for doing this. We feel seen. Like, no one has done anything this nice for us. And now I can see myself in the speakers. Like, I can talk to other people that are in similar situations to us. just because, again, yeah, they have no exposure, and it is about, showing what a great career path that is now. 10, 15 years ago, that's where it was, sort of the punchline for designers. That's where creativity goes to die. If you cannot get a job at a design firm, you settle for an in-house job. And now it's just like, that's the best gig out there. You get sort of corporate security to a certain degree. You get good hours. You get the weekends off, benefits, shit like that. So it's it's a great little not new, but it's a booming industry that deserves plenty of attention.
Love that.
Man, that's so true. I honestly noticed that in conferences because I never heard them. I started going to conferences once I had started my own business. So it's for like creative entrepreneurs or folks who are working these, run their own design studios and things like that. And I felt like those more boutique style things, that's who was getting celebrated at all these different conferences. So I could totally see that because there's so much talent there. It's also a personality type. Just some people, people ask too, if they want to, how do I do what you do? I'm like, you probably don't want to. It's not for everybody to do this. I sometimes just long to be at 5 o'clock, be done with work. I just want to be done.
Yeah. Right. Turn it off.
But there's that other part of me too that's like for you, Armin, it's like I just like doing it. It's a part of me. I really enjoy it. So it's like I always get kind of caught in between those two. But anyways, that I really like that you did the in-house in focus thing. So that's the next one coming up, just for everyone listening, March 19th through the 20th in Chicago, right? That's 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so cool. That's coming up, and there'd be like one thing that I'll say, just sort of tagging on to what you said, it's just that you sometimes wish that at 5 you'd be done. I think every night, watch TV at night, 9 to 10 p.m., something like that, and then I'm tired, and as I'm walking up to bed, like, what? Why am I doing this? Like every night, it's just like, and it's not that I hate it. It's just like, why am I doing this? And then I wake up and it's just like, okay, let's do it again. It's fine. Let's go. But it's just like that feeling of like, what am I doing? What is this for? I don't think that goes away, or maybe it does for some people. And I don't see that as a bad thing. It's just like, why am I in this? Okay, so I'll go to sleep, think about it, and then wake up refreshed and do it again. Then at the end of the day, question my life decisions one more time. And then you realize along as the day goes by, like, hey, I'm working from home. I have 4 dogs here. I see my kids for dinner every day. I get to see them go off to school. It's fine. And some people think I'm nice. So, what else can you ask for?
Some people think I'm nice. Oh, I love that.
That's a great end right there, because what else could you ask for? Like it's simple, but it's like exactly what makes life good.
Yeah,
totally. Well, thank you so much for being on here with us, Armin. It's great just to catch up. I haven't spoken to you in a long time.
It's been a while.
But thanks for sharing some wisdom and learning a little bit more about you. This is awesome. I'm going to throw a few plugs. I'm going to throw a few plugs in there for you. Outside of the in-house in focus, coming up in October 23rd and 24th in Pittsburgh is the Brand New Conference. And so that's cool. And then we also have, I guess if anyone wants to follow you, look up, it's Armin Vit across the board, right? At Armin Vit on all the socials.
Except Twitter. They deleted my account for some reason, and then I just never bothered to get it back. Like, okay, I'm okay with that.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Well, I really appreciate your time, and it's been awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, same here.
If you're getting value from these conversations, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get bonus content, early access to episodes, and help us keep bringing you the honest stories from creatives who figured it out. Check it out at patreon.com/creative/.